New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, who campaigned for New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, apparently distancing herself from her allies in the Democratic Socialists of America and throwing her support behind Hakeem Jeffries ahead of 2026.
In an interview with Axios, AOC signaled that she would not support a primary challenge against the House Minority Leader after New York City Council member Chiose filed a paperwork to launch a primary campaign for Jeffries' district. She told Axios that she was not aware of his intention to primary Jeffries, but, quote, "I certainly don't think a primary challenge to the leader is a good idea right now."
And it's not just AOC that seems to have those reservations. Fellow DSA member and confidant Zohran Mamdani also seems to be unsure about challenging Jeffries. According to that Axios report, Mamdani said of OSE, "I believe that there are many ways right here in New York City to both deliver on an affordability agenda and take on the authoritarian administration in the White House." As for Jeffries, he welcomed the primary challenge, telling reporters this week that OSE should, quote, "come on in, the water is warm." The frustration with Democratic leadership is so pervasive among the Democratic Party. I think it is mostly and more focused on Chuck Schumer. But Jeffries is also not very popular. So it is interesting to me that AOC and Mamdani, Mamdani is not a member of Congress, but
right,
is a mayor of a very, very large city in New York. Hakeem Jeffries is of New York. So it is interesting to see their view that they're not going to support a fellow Democratic socialist necessarily to challenge him. Signals to me that AOC wants to remain, I have no idea about Mamdani, but AOC wants to remain, I guess, on good enough terms with Jeffries at least, although she's been very evasive about whether she would challenge Schumer in 2028. I predict she will just go straight to running for president, so he doesn't need to worry. But, well, maybe he should worry, because if he makes it too easy for her, she might decide that, well, Senate is a safe pick. I don't know. What do you say?
I think timing matters, right? So Mamdani won in a very progressive New York City, and that's a signal to what the appetite of New York is. And I know the larger media wants to paint the picture of the future of the Democratic Party, but unfortunately or fortunately, Democrats haven't agreed to that future. Hakeem Jeffries is one of the first people on the face of not agreeing to that future based on how long it took him to even support Mamdani. And so I think when you look at the friction, AOC is smart, and she understands that the more that she looks at that possible presidential run, she has to remember that she would campaign on, even with her leftist policies, she would campaign on being the president for all, and more specifically appeal to the broader Democratic Party. In the broader Democratic Party, there still are a lot of people that felt like Mamdani was a bit too much for a wide federal run race, like it worked in New York. And so I think AOC understands that and thinks that perhaps OSE is jumping in way too soon. Like, because Mamdani won doesn't mean that everybody needs to be a Democratic socialist on the ticket across the board for the midterms, right? That is exactly what Republicans want, and that does not represent the entire country.
Why
right?
not?
That's because it's just not. That's not what people
Go
want to do.
for it.
No, that's
Go
ridiculous.
for it, my man. I think it's time.
Look, he said some good stuff. OSE said some good stuff. He said in a statement that he was exploring this from because the left is failing to like punch back properly and failing to lead effectively. And that's the voice of a lot of young people. They feel like people should be doing more. Specifically, that's why Chuck Schumer was on the chopping block, because he caved at that first possible shutdown and then allowed this one to drag on into eternity. So people got what they want. So does that mean Chuck Schumer keeps his job? Like, there's a lot of people who are considered like, staples in the Democratic Party that younger people want to go and want to see this new blood. And he's probably of the coalition that, whether it's him or a wide variety of younger people, they want to see new voices that actually listen to what people are looking for. Because just because the Democrats won this recent election cycle, which a lot of people had expected, that doesn't, to me, determine what the future of the Democratic Party looks like and how comfortable they should be going into the midterms. They still have entire restructuring to do with the party after Kamala lost, a real task ahead of them to find out what the voice is and like who would be on the ballot in 2028, and specifically what's the agenda for the midterm. So I think that they have their hands full. The thing that is working well for them is that the president is not doing too well or well at all in polling, and there are a lot of issues that everyday Americans are frustrated about, like the economy, like tariffs, and so they can campaign on the things that he's not doing right, but at some point they're going to have to campaign on what their strategies are and what their response properly is. And that differs between like the Mamdani socialist strategy to the Hakeem Jeffries strategy.
Well, right. They have to pick pick a direction. This person, Ose, is a far left, again, democratic socialist, has socialist in the
What's the
title of
smirk
how he
about?
presents himself. Well, to Abigail Spanberger's point, the successful winner of the Virginia gubernatorial race, she said, I don't want to ever hear the word socialist again. She said that on a campaign strategy call with other members of the House, I believe, at the time, several years ago. And yet people with socialist in their bio are still seeking office on behalf of the Democratic Party. And yes, of course, Republicans take a certain amount of glee at that because socialism is not popular. It's deservedly unpopular because socialism is synonymous with authoritarianism and central control and ensuing poverty, as tends to happen in socialist-run economies of the previous century. We don't have that many experiments in socialism going on right now, but you can go to North Korea for one of them. So yes, we hope, we being the right, hope that there's a lot of investment in running as socialists.
The silly part about this whole thing is that both parties have a lot of soul searching to do. We talked about this a lot yesterday. People can go back and watch that segment, but Republicans have to figure out what the heck they're doing after Trump. We see current day and almost every day that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump are disagreeing. Fuentes is rising, and that's in disagreement with the party. There's a lot of disarray going on. And Democrats just don't know what they're doing also, because after Kamala left, they had these wins, and then they had Mamdani, and they're like, wait, that's not us, so what's going on? So I think both parties are at a similar space, but heavy's the head that wears the crown. And since the president is in power and since Republicans run both the Senate and the House, a lot of people will look to some of the failures as Republican issues, whether we proceed in the next year or so and have success or don't as a country. A lot of that will be a referendum. I think when people go to the voting booth, they'll say, well, you were in power and this is what was done. So that's what Democrats have to their advantage. But I think both parties got to figure out a lot in the next 3 years if they want to send any viable candidate forward, whether it's AOC or whoever, how that's going to appeal to the broader public. I mean, you're going to be the president of the entire United States. You're going to, as you start to put candidates forward, you're going to more cement that you want this socialist agenda. And so does the party want to align with that? And then the same thing for Republicans. As they continue to propel and have interviews with people like Fuentes, you are cementing that you want to align with a racist agenda. I mean, there's a lot of soul searching to do in both parties. And I think that Republicans can laugh, but it's a disaster right now.
Mm-hmm. We'll see.
Up next, Marjorie Taylor Greene took a shot at Fox News during an interview with Vanity Fair, saying that she watches the conservative network the least. We'll be right back after this.